All right, so in this video, we're going to be talking about how to give your sales team leads that are so good they're actually fighting over them. And I'm going to be talking about that in the on the workshop coming up. But first, let me ask you something, right? When was like the last time your sales team actually really got excited about getting leads? Like, really think about it. Like, are they like fighting over the leads to see who's going to take over the appointment? If you're like most remodeling companies, your sales team are not fighting over leads. They're kind of dreading them, right? Because let me show you. Because some people, the leads that you're giving them right now, here's actually what's happening in the business. Like you buy leads from like aggregators, or you get it from a home show or wherever, and you're paying a lot of money, right? So $150, $200 per lead sometimes, right? And then they call them, there's no answer. And then they call them again, and then you probably get their voicemail. Or you text them, and then you don't get anything. But even when you actually finally reach them, they're like, okay, you know what? Yeah, we're just getting quotes. Yeah, just let us know how much you guys are going to charge and everything. It's actually very demoralizing because you know what? These people are getting the same consultation from other contractors, like five other people, depending on where you're getting the leads from, right? It's a coin flip at the best. It's like really soul crushing work, and a lot of good salespeople are actually quitting because you know what? It's they're not getting the kind of leads that they really deserve to actually work on. Leads that are actually really good, right? So the real problem, what you need to understand is like it's not the sales team's fault, right? It's not that they need like better scripts or more training. The problem is the lead, right? We're giving them cold prospects that basically we've bought like a name, email, phone number. They don't trust you yet. They're shopping purely on price. And like you're kind of asking them somehow to convince these people. Some guys are really good at that, right? But sometimes it's an impossible game. So how do we make this easier? How do we turn your sales team into what we call order takers? So, you know what, let me actually explain to you this quick story, right? So it's what I call the most expensive sales call in history. So if you remember in November 2024, Donald Trump running for the election, and people are thinking, you know what, how is this guy going to actually do it? Right? Because obviously he was out for a term and then he's coming back, right? But what he did was completely different from the traditional campaign playbook, right? That says, you know what, spend millions on 30-second TV ads. I mean, he actually did this, right? Scripted rallies, stick to talking points, control the message. This is how every campaign has been run for decades, right? You know, short bursts of controlled messaging, interrupt people with your ad, hope they remember you. And that's fine. He did it. He did all this. But what did he do differently as well, too? It's what I call the FaceTime education, right? So what this guy did, or what his team, right, is they basically went long form. They sat down for like 2 to 3 hour podcast conversations, like really unscripted, unedited, talking to Joe Rogan for like 3 hours, no script, Theo Von, Logan Paul, Aiden Ross, so basically influencers. People were thinking, this is actually very risky. How is he going to do it for 3 hours? What if it goes off script? What if it goes off mess? And actually, that was actually the point, right? Because the idea was for him to have that FaceTime to educate the viewers about him. That single Joe Rogan podcast got over like 50 million views across all platforms, right? But what really mattered was it actually changed minds. People were skeptical. They sat down for 3 hours, heard him talk about his family, his business failures, motivations. People actually really felt like they knew him. They already spent 3 hours with this guy. You can't fake authenticity for like 3 hours, right? And that actually worked because this allows the voters to see the actual person, right? Not the manufactured soundbite. And the real thing about it is the FaceTime, is the time you're spending with this person. After you spend 3 hours with someone, 2 hours with someone, you kind of, you have that know, like, and trust factor, right? And then the podcast kind of educated them about who he was, right? So before the, you know, podcast, people are like, you know what, I don't know who this guy is. Like, I'm kind of skeptical. But after 3 hours with him, they're like, you know what, I actually like this guy. I get what he's about. He's got my vote. So nothing changed. His policies were the same. His resume were the same. But what changed was the prospect's level of familiarity, right? So how familiar were they with him? So again, you might be thinking, okay, well, I don't care about it's politics, right? Again, love him or hate him, you kind of have to take the lessons from that, right? It worked for him. Let's see how we can implement that. So, I mean, you might not be running for president. You just want to be booking home remodels, but the principle is exactly the same. And I'm going to show you how, right? So what if your prospects went through the same podcast effect before your salesperson showed up, right? That FaceTime educated, like education, right? What if before they called you, they've watched 5 to 10 of your videos, they've heard you answer all the questions that they have in their mind, right? They've seen your personality, they know that, and they've actually seen that you actually like this guy, and then they understand your pricing philosophy, how you guys work. So we actually did that for one of our clients, right? It's actually what we call the educated buyer factory, right? I'm going to show you how it works. So what we did was, it's actually a really cool example, like a really cool case study. So we created like a 7-part mini course about a new zoning change in this city, right? So homeowners suddenly could build additions where they couldn't do that before, right? So the thing is, like, not many people understood the rules. They knew about what was going on. So what we did for this remodeling company was that we made 7 videos explaining exactly what those changes meant, right? Who's affected, what you can build, like how to get financing, what the process actually looks like. 7 really, really like in-depth videos. Well, not too long, about 5 minutes each, right? 5 to 10 minutes times 7. That's already an hour, right? An hour of time that your prospects are sharing with you, spending with you, learning, getting educated, right? Building trust, just like the podcast, right? Then we back that up with like educational, like consistent educational videos that are showing up on their feeds, right? So all this is happening immediately before they speak to your sales team. By the time these people get to your team, we've answered 90% of their questions, right? And that's what we call the educated buyer effect, right? So think about it. Before you have that, like, the kind, they're in this mindset thinking, you know what, I'm getting 3 quotes. I'm going to pick the cheapest one. So after the podcast effect, like they've been watching your videos for weeks. I already know I want to work with you. When can we start? The salesperson isn't like selling anymore, right? They're just kind of taking the order at this point. So just like those voters, they didn't need to be converted. I am like convinced after the 3-hour podcast. They were already decided, right? So this is a really cool example. So after we published the course that I was telling you about, we started getting people reach out, say, you know what? Oh, we have an in-ground pool in our backyard. Is it still possible to add a coach house? Right? Another person said, thanks for the email and sharing this great series. Very informative. Binge watched it this morning because in the email I said, you know what? You can binge watch it Netflix style. And the person went through all 7 videos immediately. Right? And then the really cool thing about it is, again, they could be watching, we could be playing around. In the end, we're still thinking, how much are we going to actually sell for this? How much money are we going to make for this, right? And then the client actually sent me this email saying, you know what? Looks like we sold the design for this. Coming from the course could be worth up to $300,000. These are actual mini homes that are being built in the backyard. It's really, really cool stuff, right? So if you kind of contrast this with your competitors, right? Or how you're doing it right now. The prospect fills out 5 forms or goes to Google and finds out best contractor in my city, right? Gets calls from 5 people or goes to like, Thumbtack or Angie. And then what they're doing is they're basically shopping purely on price, right? So at this point, you're 1 of 5. It's a coin flip at this point, right? But this approach is so different, right? So your prospect is actually watching your videos for like 2 weeks. They learn from you. They are getting that FaceTime education from you. We're not even having a game at this point, right? We've won the game. You've already won, right? Because you are the first person top of mind. You're the person that have educated them. If you've done the education already, then, why would they want to go with someone else, right? Because again, people are terrified of working with contractors, right? But you educating them already shows your expertise. Their guard is actually being pulled down, right? Right. It's really amazing how this works. So how do you actually build this system, right? So it's basically 1 of 5 parts, right? Which I'm going to be showing you on the workshop, right? You start with the Trojan horse video, which kind of slips under the radar. Then you have the attraction offer that gets prospects to raise their hand. And then you have the content library, which we call the trust multiplier. And then we have the educated buyer factory. And the last one is the forever follow-up. Because again, not everyone is ready to buy right now, but we're able to use AI to follow up forever. Again, it's really cool stuff. Come to the workshop. I'm going to show you how we do all this. One other cool thing is like I was thinking about these videos here, right? You might be thinking, okay, I don't have time to shoot 10, 20, 30 videos. This guy is not real. We used AI to create these videos, right? So we can actually have an AI influencer nurture your people and create this content. Same thing with this video that we had here. That is actually the salesperson, but he didn't sit down to shoot those videos. We actually had an AI clone of him create the video. So imagine having 5, 10, 20 videos, 3, 4, 5 courses all out there nurturing your clients. Like, it just blows my mind, right? So this is the new age, or this is the new way of getting leads that are already sold before you get to your salesperson. So come to the workshop. Looking forward to having you on there. I'm sure the link is below to sign up. And then, yeah, see you on the workshop. Take care.